Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Sunday. I hope the weekend is going well wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. Pretty quiet weekend in the world of Arsenal. Obviously, yesterday's show, I spent quite a lot of time talking about Emile Rowe. We do have some reaction to that, plenty of reaction, in fact, to that, given the amount of comments you guys sent in, giving your thoughts on the whole situation. So we'll discuss that a little bit later on in the show. We've got Kieran Tierney to talk about. He's been speaking after Real Sociedad's final game of the season. We've got plenty of other questions and comments from you guys as well. Got to talk about the FA Cup final last night. Myself being wrong once again when it comes to football, giving Manchester United no hope in hell even, of winning the trophy. And they go and do it. Remarkable day at Wembley. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show as well. But first of all, before we get to anything, got to say, happy Anfield 89 day. It's a day that 35, how on earth has that happened? 35 years ago, May the 26th, 1989, Arsenal 2, Liverpool 0 to win the league title. Mickey Thomas, the last kick of the season to win the league title. Forget your Aguero moments. Don't let anyone try and pretend that's the greatest ending to any top flight season in England. This right there that you are looking at, the greatest moment, the top two on the final night of the season, Arsenal having to go to Anfield, who hadn't lost by 2 clear goals in about 5 million years at Anfield at that point. Arsenal had to go there, win by 2 clear goals, and they do it with pretty much the last kick of the game. Michael Thomas charging through. Just what a moment. What a moment. How on earth has that been 35 years? Even watching it from home as an 8-year-old, as I was back then, it was just something that will be ingrained in my memory forever. I cannot even imagine what it was like to be in the away end to witness that moment. So yeah, 35 years. Happy anniversary, everyone. Michael Thomas Day, 35 years. But let's move on. Let's talk about Kieran Tierney, shall we? Now, he played his final game. Well, what appears to be his final game for Real Sociedad. Yesterday, he came out, spoke afterwards to some of the Spanish media. He talked about how sad he was. He said it's a very sad day. He said playing his last day for Real, playing his last game for Real Sociedad. He did a great time over there. He gave an interview to The Athletic, didn't he, that we spoke about a month ago when he talked about how great it's been over there, how much he's enjoyed it. But the understanding is that Real Sociedad are not going to take up their option. They're not going to trigger it. They're not going to sign him permanently, which means Kieran Tierney is going to be coming back to Arsenal and to London. And he did speak about that in an interview with The Athletic, and he was very open, admitting that he's probably not going to make it, come back to Arsenal and make it, and that the team has moved on and the club has moved on, and he was fully accepting of that. He wasn't criticising anyone. But it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Kieran Tierney now. Now, Arsenal sent him to Sociedad when the move to Newcastle fell through last summer. Went into that summer transfer window last summer. Everyone was expecting Kieran Tierney to sign for Newcastle. Believe me, they were. And then it didn't happen. Newcastle changed their minds. They went down another route, ended up bringing in Lewis Hall. And Arsenal had to suddenly look around and think, what are we going to do with Kieran Tierney? We thought we had a permanent move done. It wasn't done. And in the end, the best option was that he would send out to Real Sociedad. The hope was he was going to have a really good season, prove his fitness, stay injury-free, help Sociedad, who are in the Champions League, and they were going to make the move permanent at the end of the season. Unfortunately for Kieran, those pesky injuries that have plagued him basically since the moment he walked through the doors at Arsenal, not even then, actually, even before that when he was at Celtic, have disrupted his season. I think he made 20 appearances, didn't make too many starts, was really, really popular. They really liked him over there. But the injuries, just as they did with Arsenal, they just hit him at the wrong time. He couldn't get any sort of momentum, couldn't get any sort of rhythm, a long spell in the team. And when you're going to have to pay the sort of money that Sociedad would have done to turn it permanent, I think you look at that, combine it with his previous injury record as well, and they've obviously decided not to take the move. So what do Arsenal do with Kieran Tierney now? It's going to be difficult. There wasn't that much of a market for him last summer once the Newcastle move fell through. He's had another injury-plagued season this summer. So where's the market going to be? It's going to be a difficult one to move him on. He's obviously on very good money at Arsenal as well, which makes things even more difficult. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up going on another loan. The absolute, hope for Arsenal and for Kieran as well will be that it'll be a permanent move, and then he can really kick on his career elsewhere and move on. But I just wonder if how difficult the market is going to be to find a buyer for Kieran Tierney who'll be willing to pay any sort of decent transfer fee, and Arsenal would want a decent transfer fee for him, but also cover his wages as well. You kind of look at Celtic and wonder, could he make a bit of a emotional homecoming to Celtic? Could they scrape together the sort of money that would be needed to sign Kieran Tierney? Wages wise, you'd have to think it's doubtful. They are in the Champions League again next season, so they do have that added bit of money, but we'll have to wait and see. And there's no information on me on that. That's just me sort of putting two and two together and coming up with Celtic, basically, when it comes to Kieran Tierney. But yeah, be good to see him back maybe in pre-season. Might see him in some of the friendlies, but I can't imagine we're going to see Kieran Tierney coming back and sort of pushing his way towards the Arsenal first team anytime soon. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What should happen with Kieran Tierney now? Where could he go? Any possibilities? What do you think? Do you think he should come back to Arsenal? Is there now a chance of him with Arsenal sort of flipping the inverted fullbacks or appearing to flip the inverted fullbacks with Ben White now playing as the inverted right back? Does that allow Kieran Tierney, your natural sort of left back? Does that give him a chance in the team? Who knows? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Right, moving on. As Chiddy here from Houston says, listen to this. He's talking about yesterday's show after the FA Cup game, and I had to laugh after you saying there's no way that Man United wins. Lol. Good game, though. Anyone but City. I have to admit, I was happy. I don't tend to want Manchester United to win anything, but I was delighted to see them win that game. I didn't give them a hope in hell, as I said, and City just were poor. So couldn't they have produced that sort of performance, Man City, in one game in that last month or so? I suppose in a way you could say they probably did when they went to Nottingham Forest and Tottenham, to be fair. They weren't great in either of those two games, but they managed to get themselves over the line. United were ruthless in that first half with those 2 goals in quick succession. I mean, the first one was just an absolute horror show from City with Guardiola and Ortega. Again, the sort of mistake they just did not make in the run-in. They were so perfect in the run-in. They didn't make any sort of catastrophic error like that one that led to the first goal yesterday. Man United's second goal, though, was absolutely brilliant from just the whole move from Rashford's pass to Bruno's disguised ball to Mainu. Just a stunning goal. And yeah, congratulations to Manchester United. It's just football, isn't it? It's a funny old game, as they say. You can give one team no. I mean, United have been so awful this season, shambolic, and yet they win the FA Cup. And they've beaten Liverpool and Manchester United on the way to that, Manchester City on the way to winning that FA Cup. It's a crazy game, football. You just never know what is going to happen. So congratulations to Man United. I have to admit, I was very, very happy not to see Man City get their hands on yet another piece of silverware. Right, moving on now to some of your questions and comments. Got quite a few of these, and we're going to talk about Emile Smith-Rowe here. Now, I gave my information I had on Smith-Rowe, the fact that there's talks scheduled for the next couple of weeks to determine his future. I'm not saying either way. I don't know how those talks are going to go. Maybe he'll stay. Maybe Arteta will, again, like he did last summer when they sit down for talks, said, no, we're not going to sell you. You're going to stay. You're going to be part of the squad. Maybe that'll be the case again. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It could go either way. But you guys have been reacting to the news, and like Gooner72 says, as a long-term Gooner, I, alongside many others, have seen Emile develop, and it deeply saddens me that he will have to move on to continue his career instead of being at the Arsenal. For him, if Mikel Arteta won't play him, it will be a wise decision to leave, as he's just wasting his immense talent. Spot on. That's kind of how I feel. Isaac here says, I bet if Smith-Rowe wasn't English, then there would not be such big hype about him leaving the club, which I don't really get that comment. And I've seen quite a few of those sort of comments in below, and it's about an English bias. I don't understand what you're getting at. I mean, it's true, really, what you said, because he is a Hale End boy. He's come through at Arsenal, and you always have that deep-rooted attachment to kids who come through Hale End and who come through and homegrown players through the club. Of course you do. So I don't see why that's an issue and why you're even pointing that out. And maybe you're right. You probably are right. But it's like whenever a homegrown kid who's immensely talented, as Smith-Rowe is, who's done a lot for the club, as he has, to see him not make it and move on, it was sad when Alex Iwobi left. It was right. It was the right move at the right time of his career, just like I think this is going to be the right move at the right time of his career for Smith-Rowe. But it was still sad. It will still be sad that he goes because he's a Hale End boy, just like it was really sad that Alex Iwobi went and wasn't able to really sort of kick on and make it at Arsenal. So I don't really understand what you're saying there, to be honest. Lance says, don't you think now, with a bit more control of games, that we need someone like ESR? We don't have anyone else like him in the squad with more established six. I think we need to keep him because he's good at getting into the box. I'd rather sell Vieira. I agree. As I said, I don't want Smith-Rowe to go. I'd like him to get more opportunities, but the fact is he's not going to get it. It looks like he's not going to get more opportunities. So I just think you've got to sell, especially in the summer where Arsenal do need to sell, really, to bring in some money because they haven't done that for a while. Decent money anyway. And Smith Rowe is a sellable asset right now, and he's only got 2 years left on his contract. And you wait another year and only have 1 year left on his deal, and you're just not going to get much money for him. So, I just don't really. I don't really see any other option. And Jimmy says ESR is closer to being a starter than most players who are on the bench, i.e. any of the starters. Odegaard or Rice is unavailable. ESR starts. His only bad luck is that those players who have been fit all season. So I don't see why Arsenal should sell him. We all want a strong squad, and ESR is one player that makes our squad better. Arsenal cannot afford to weaken the squad. I mean, it's an interesting point. And as Lance above there says, he'd rather sell Vieira. I mean, Vieira was so far down the pecking order after he came back from his injuries. And like you said, Jim, you pointed out, when it's not, certainly in that second half of the season when players were unavailable, Smith Rowe did come in and get some minutes. Like, he started against Luton, Vieira didn't. He started against Nottingham Forest, Vieira didn't. He came on the final day against Everton when Arsenal needed a goal, Vieira didn't. So he's ahead of Vieira in the pecking order. So I suppose if you are getting rid of Smith Rowe now and not Vieira, then you're weakening the squad further. But also, I don't really see there's a market for Vieira this summer, given he's had an injury hit season, given he hasn't played much when he has been fit. You're not going to make any money on Vieira if you sell him this summer. I think Smith Rowe has still maintained that value because of his homegrown status, because he's English, which will be very, very appealing to Premier League clubs, and because of what he has achieved since he's been at Arsenal and the sort of heights he has hit, not in the last couple of years because he hasn't been given many opportunities, but everyone will remember what he did when he was first in the team. Vieira doesn't really have that. So, all good points, all good reaction. Thank you very much for getting in touch on that. Here's one from Adam, kind of on Smith Rowe, who says, Smith Rowe future and FFP. Charles, great show as always. Thank you. Very long time subscriber, second time commenter. Thank you, Adam. You said, do you think FFP is tempting clubs to cash in on academy players? Like Smith Rowe, any sale is pure profit. Personally, I'd love to see homegrown talent representing our club. Can you please explain and share your thoughts whether FFP could potentially harm academy players' route to the first team? Absolutely, 100%. I mean, it's an open secret, isn't it? Of course it is. You basically, the way it's set up now, you get so much more benefit in selling homegrown players because it is, as you say, pure profit on the books. And that's just going to help anything when it comes to the PSR guidelines that you have to try and meet. So there is definitely a temptation now for clubs to sell homegrown players. Look at, I'm trying to think some really good examples here. Wolves with Morgan Gibbs-White when they sold him. Man City with Cole Palmer. Chelsea have done it plenty of times recently when they've cashed in on their academy players because it just goes down as pure profit. Arsenal, if they do end up selling Smith Rowe, Nketiah, Reece this summer, again, it's pure profit, which just absolutely balances the books basically like that. 100%. And I do think it's not great for the game because obviously you don't want to produce homegrown talent to then sell them. You don't want that to be the major aim of producing homegrown talent. You want it to continue to be to get into the first team and do what, say, Bukayo Saka has done. I don't think it's a great situation, but it is what it is, and there's not really anything. I can't really see it changing, to be honest. Now, this is about Mika Biereth, who we spoke about in yesterday's show, and the fact that Sturm Graz have scheduled talks with Arsenal for next week over Mika Biereth, and they hope that they might be able to get him permanently. Whether they can afford him, we'll have to wait and see. The sporting director saying yesterday that they would maybe stretch a little bit beyond what they normally can to try and sign him because of the impact he's made. But when you look at their record transfer fee, which I think is around the £3.5-4 million mark, I think you're probably going to need to go more than that to get Mika Biereth. So we'll have to wait and see it happens. SPS Best Profile Name says the most Sturm have ever paid for a player is 3.5 million. There you go. I think they won't offer above 15, or they definitely won't. Would you sell for 10 million? I'd rather loan him out again for a fee and hope for more next season. He may even improve to the point that we could use him. And then following at the bottom there says it's going to be disheartening for me if Arteta and Edu decide to cash in on Mika. Mark my words, if they take such a decision, they'll be begging to have him back at the Emirates in 2 or 3 years' time. See, I don't agree. And when up the top there, Best Profile Name says loan him out for a season, he's only going to have a year left at the end of his contract, until the end of his contract this summer. So he'll have a year left. And he's already said basically he doesn't want to sit on the bench. So he's not going to sign a new contract. So I think you're in the same situation you were with Fowler and Balogun, that you just got to sell. It's going to have to be a sale this summer. There's no indication that he would be willing to sign a new contract at Arsenal. So if you don't sell him this summer, then he goes on a free in 12 months' time. So you're going to have to sell. And I don't think it's going to be disheartening. We all said this about Balogun. People were saying it about Balogun last summer, but it was clear that Arsenal needed to sell Balogun. They had the best time. It was the best chance to sell Balogun last summer. And I don't think they're regretting it now, 12 months down the line by any means. And I don't think they'll regret it if they sell Mika Biereth. Sometimes you just got to sell players if they're talented. Sometimes they'll make it, sometimes they won't. And I don't think anyone's going to be regretting it. I think Arsenal sell for a decent amount of money. I don't think they'll get 15 million for him. I'd be very, very surprised at that. I think they'll probably get maybe 10, something like that, but they'll also get a really good sell-on clause included in that deal, maybe even a matching rights clause like they've done with some youngsters recently where they could buy him back or have first option to buy him back from the selling club. So I think that's what we're going to see when it comes to Mika Biereth. Here's one from Andrew to sort of close out today's show. Obviously, big day yesterday at Wembley in the FA Cup final. It potentially just as big a day for a couple of clubs today with it Southampton versus Leeds in the playoff final with a chance to go back up to the Premier League. Andrew says, hey, Charles, Andrew from Iowa here. Thoughts on the richest game in sport today? Any preference on who wins? And also thoughts on Company to Munich? In terms of Vincent Company to Munich, it's mad. It's just crazy. I mean, I know they tried to get about 20 other managers before him and weren't able to, but still, I would never have picked Vincent Company. You know, he's obviously he showed he's got some talent. He got Burnley up in a very good way from the Championship, but then they really struggled this season. He wasn't able to get a tune out of his players, albeit limited players, so they were always going to struggle in the Premier League. But wasn't really. You never really saw the plan working for Vincent Company, whatever that plan was with Burnley in the Championship, and to go from there to get relegated to the Championship and then get the Bayern Munich job. I mean, it seems mad to me, but who knows? It might turn out to be a mastermind decision from them. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I'm very, very surprised. In terms of the richest game in sport today, any preference on who wins? Yes, Southampton, 100%. And purely from a personal, selfish point of view, I can't stand working at Leeds. I hate the drive. It's so far away. I think the Premier League's better when Leeds are in it because they're such a well-supported team, and I think Ellen Road's such a superb atmospheric ground, and their away fans are great and create lots of noise. So I think the Premier League is a better spectacle when Leeds are in it. But I just hate working at Ellen Road. I hate the press box. I don't like the drive up there. I'd much rather just go short little journey to St Mary's where I can work far easier. So from a purely selfish reason, that is why I'd prefer Southampton to win today and not Leeds. But look, in terms of the Premier League, I think the Premier League's a better spectacle when Leeds United are in it. So I don't know. It's a flip of the coin type thing for me. I'll just be sitting back, enjoying watching it and hoping for a decent game at Wembley later on today. And that's it from me, everyone. Thank you very much for watching and for listening. Anything you want to talk about in tomorrow's show, you know what to do. Get into the comments below with your comments, your opinions, your questions. I'll pull some of them together and get them included in tomorrow's show. Until then, have a fantastic Sunday, everyone. Enjoy the end of your weekend. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.